and what their names are. Huh, interesting, yes.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So the first part, line 1A, is like board members?
Board members, officers.
So
This is employees.
This is employees.
Employees.
And if none of the employees received more than $50,000, you wouldn't list anybody?
Right. And that may be the case the first year, so you may have none.
Exactly.
That's not unusual.
So, excuse me, what happens if the following year, someone is getting $50,000?
That's different. You put that information on your 990. These are the initial, okay? That information will be reported. They want to know, what are you thinking? What do you think about paying these people? And if you don't, I mean, if you really don't know, then don't put it. If you don't think you're going to pay anybody over $50,000, don't put it. But, you know, yes.
Just for clarity, again, if the director of the organization is doing a dual role and is also sits on the board, they cannot be a voting member in order to be compensated.
Well,
Or they
now,
should- or
let's
they can.
talk about the person is a director and sitting on the board. Now, you have to go back and you've got to list their name as a director because they're receiving compensation. Now you got to show that they're a board member receiving compensation. They may be in a different hat, but they are a board member receiving compensation. That will trigger other issues. So, as you are planning on starting your new organization, you've got to figure out, and you want to be paid, but you also want to direct the organization. You're in a little dilemma, aren't you? You're in a little dilemma because the power, the ultimate power rests in the board. They hire and fire,
You're on the board.
but you can't be on the board and get paid. But you're gonna be doing all the work. You gotta figure out which role you want. You gotta figure, and believe me, this is so common. That's why I know, because I'm doing the same thing. See, I'm doing the same thing and have done it and have others do it. And I know what I decided. And how I decided that. I don't wanna,
This relates only to compensation,
I don't-
not reimbursement, is that correct?
reimbursement is different from compensation.
How about gratuities? Gratuities.
That's compensation.
Okay.
So if you have a director of the school who you want to be involved with the board, can you have them attend the board meetings but not be listed as one of those people?
They're not a board.
Okay.
You don't, why would, if they're not a board, whoever wants to attend your board meeting and make presentations and they
You have
can.
to list that there.
And
They didn't ask for whoever who attends the board meeting. Keep in mind what they asked for. They asked for the officers.
Right.
They didn't ask for,
Who attends?
that's right. They didn't ask that question. Only answer the question.
But,
Yes.
but let me bring us back because we talked about this a little bit earlier. If, in fact, let's just say, for example, you're creating the CDC, you're going to be the president, but you're going to have to, and the president is separate from the board chair. Okay. So, I mean, some people use title of executive director, some people use president, whatever. But the president is a higher position. You technically are an ex officio member of the board because you're running the organization institution. And so therefore you're on the board but without vote.
Right.
And that way that would cover you in terms of the fact that you have the ability to influence, but you don't have the ability to make a decision.
Right.
Yes and no.
Okay?
You said you're technically an ex officio member.
Right.
That's if you choose to be, and that's if you put it in your bylaws.
Right.
You don't
Correct.
have to be a member at all,
Correct.
ex officio or not. Bottom line is, if you're receiving money, you can't be a board member.
But wouldn't the president be an officer? Because it said board members and officers. So you have.
It depends. See, a lot of these terms are a little confusing. Keep in mind, what they want are the board.
Right.
You can call your board officers, or you can call them trustees. What they're looking for are the persons responsible for the well-being of the organization. Okay? In terms of pay compensation, you can have similar roles. You can be called whatever. The issue is paid and unpaid.
Right.
Okay, so look question. This is names of business and mailing addresses of your 5 highest compensated independent contractors. Wow.
Okay.
They're starting to get in your business, aren't they? You said you wanted all this freedom and fun, right? Okay, let's keep on going. I'm gonna get through this whole thing. Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, independent contractors, these are the ones that have a W-9 relationship or 1099 relationship with the organization, right?
Right, like the events
So,
planner.
just, because there's a
Okay, you
definition
understand
of.
what an independent contractor
there's a
is?
definition of independent contractor is very specific versus a vendor.
Right. Yeah, an independent contractor is someone working for your organization under contract that you will issue a 1099, or a 1099 is a form that shows how much money was paid to this independent contractor. Okay, let's keep on going. Now watch this next group of questions. Now you answer those other questions. Now check this out. Are any of your officers, directors, or trustees related to each other through family or business relationships? What did we talk about family? We said, who was the one we talking about? Was it you?
That's me.
Yeah.
Yes, isn't that, they asked that question.
You say yes.
And you said yes. Okay, so you're gonna see the impact of that as we go on. Do you have a business relationship with any of your officers, directors, and trustees? And this is yes, identify the individuals and describe the business relationship of each. Are any of your officers, directors, and trustees related to your highest compensated employees? They're looking. They want to know, is this a family business in disguise? Is this really not a public? Are y'all just your own little family running this thing together, not paying federal income tax, running the scam on the government under the guise of a 501c3? Your mother is on the board, you the executive director.
Your brother is.
Your brother's the contractor.
And your sister's the secretary.
Okay? I'm telling you, any yeses and needs, any yeses and needs are problems. I'm not saying you can't get it. My prediction is any yes in this is going to cause them to send it back to you, and either reject it or give me more information. That's what's going to happen. Guaranteed.
It's not just, it might seem like it, but this is not just an exercise in futility.
Oh, no.
Because just recently, last year, one of the key administrators of a nonprofit charter school is now getting thoroughly investigated in the front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer and by the IRS for relationships. That one woman was an accountant and she was making $250,000 for being an accountant for nonprofit schools and what have you. And she was the wife of somebody who was this. And once that all is done, you know, not only are they going to be adjudicated on their nonprofit status, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody went to jail.
Yes. See, that's the other thing. Not only can you lose your nonprofit status, not only can you be penalized and taxed, but you're breaking a federal law that the state attorney general is investigating this not-for-profit organization because of a woman doing the same thing. Okay? It's not you can't do it. But when you do these things, it requires so much backdropping and so much things you got to do ahead of time, and it looks bad, even if the person is not guilty.
Right.
What has happened to the not-for-profit's reputation?
Yeah.
Right.
When in doubt, don't. Because now there is a cloud. Now, it may be all legal. Maybe they did everything right. But now foundations are going to say, no.
I'm just thinking of a dilemma because within my churches, we do have a 501c3, my church. And in trying to maintain that, one of the restructuring things we're doing is as a camp, which will probably be, I will be applying for a separate 501c3. C3, excuse me. Whether or not I decide either, because I would be the director, whether or not I decide to either be on the board or to be compensated is not my issue as much as my pastor, who would probably be on the board because he is the pastor of the church, is my uncle. So I'm like, well then,
Yeah. I just told, I have 35 minutes. Okay, I know we're having fun, we're enjoying this. I'm gonna move faster. Now, you're gonna have a lot of questions. I know you're gonna have a lot of questions, but I'm gonna hit the highlights, because you need to get through the main parts of this, and you will start to feel, you can now actually, you know the issues to that. Okay, so you have to work through that. You gotta make some decisions. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Well, could it cause problems? Yes. Okay, you have to work through that. All right, let's look at these. I got some things highlighted real quickly. Look, do you or will you record in writing the decisions made by each individual who decided or voted on the compensation arrangements? Wow. Look at the last highlight. Do you or will you record in writing both the information on which you rely based on your decision? Now, I'm going to tell you something. Read this carefully. What they're talking about is how you decide to pay people. And first, it better be in writing. And it better be according to standards that are not way out of line. Look at number 2. I didn't highlight it, but understand what they're saying. Did you go, how do you figure out how to pay people?
I think through the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines.
Yeah, okay. You need to be, and especially if there's relationship issues, you've got to, and this stuff has to be in writing. If you do not keep track, if you do not have written minutes, you can be in trouble. Okay? This issue of in writing, a lot of us don't like it. I'm telling you. Failure to put this kind of detail in writing and to do it appropriately will put you in deep serious trouble. I got examples. I don't want to see that happen to you. If you're going to do this, then you have to be ready for the work in addition to the fun and play. Because it is different than a church. They don't care if you put your board meetings in writing, how you decide what you pay people. That's your church. That's private. When you want public money, I'm telling you. Look at number 5. Have you adopted a conflict of interest policy? Consistent with the sample conflict of interest in Appendix 6A. If yes, provide a copy and explain how the policy has been adopted, such as by resolution or your board member. If no, answers 5, B, and C. Basically is, how are you going to make these decisions? See, the basic is, either you got policy, if you don't have a policy, we're going to ask you some questions then. So in other words, if you don't have a policy, then you're going to have to answer these other questions. Will you compensate any of your employees? How are you going to figure that, basically how are you going to figure that out? That's all this really talks about. Will you compensate your employees other than officers who receive compensation? Are they going to be paid more than $50,000? Is it going to be fixed compensation? How will this amount be returned to the department? What is the arrangements? Yada, 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 yada. In other words, tell us how you're going to make your decision and that you are avoiding conflict of interest and not simply being capricious. Yes, ma'am.
I want to make a real important point, I think. As you know, I'm a grant maker too, and just yesterday I was reviewing grants for another organization, United Way, is doing a grant competition. When we put out RFPs, the language is very, very important. And if it comes in text-heavy boxes like that, what I do as just a rule when I do my own grant seeking is I bullet out what the thing is asking, because sometimes there's an and or. Sometimes you have to answer both to get the whatever the score or whatever. So my point is, please be very careful how you read it, understand what it's saying before you, and then answer everything they ask you for. Trust me, I was grading down I thought good organizations yesterday who didn't answer everything explicitly the way the question framed it. I had a responsibility as a scorer for these grants to do that. So I'm saying you can, even when in grant making, that's grant seeking, that's an important point, but certainly in this exercise, pay attention to what it's asking you. And if you have to ask others what they hear, do that. It's worth it so you can get the right answers down.
For those of us that don't know, what's an RP?
Sorry?
What's an
Request
RP?
Oh, that's a request for proposals. That's a different exercise, but a similar concept.
Okay, so these, you basically have to give them a policy one way or another. So this six basically is how you're gonna pay people. If you're simply gonna use some non-fixed way of doing it, then you gotta tell us how you're gonna do it. And if somehow you're gonna pay your employees from bonuses and revenue, how are you gonna do it? So now, starting this to fit an application, you've got to know how you're going to operate. Do you see that?
Yes.
You can't simply have an idea and feel complete this. Not possible. And if you have gone to someone and say, I got this idea, would you complete my 501c3 application? They're going to look at you and say, you are crazy. You don't know what the application is about. Because I can't simply complete it on ideas. I got to give them specific information. How are you going to operate this business? Because that's what they want to know. That's what they want to know. And you got to know this before you complete this form. You got it. Okay, I'm going to go fast, but I think you're getting it. I mean, that comment is really going to simply reverberate. You're going to have to know how you're going to operate, and you're going to have provisions in mind and ready to be written to show how you're not discriminating, how you're not simply using this for your own advancement, and how you are going to, in fact, make sure you're going to keep the provisions of 501c3. That's in your operation. In your operation. So if you haven't thought that through yet, that level of detail, it requires that level of detail. And I don't recommend you simply pay somebody some money and say, do this, because you don't know what they did. Because whatever they put down, you have to keep to it. And you don't know it. You don't know what it means to be a 501c3. You really don't know until you go through this. And now it's, oh my goodness. So that's what it means. Yes, sir.
So then you can take this application, right, look at the application, and you can really model your organization based off the application.
These things in the application must be in your organization.
Right.
Yes.
Right, so take the blank.
You've got to include, if you want to be a 501c3, the things that I have here, they are good things. They are good policies to put in your organization, okay? I'm going to try to go faster. Then it talks about, you're going to look at number 7A. Who's lady talking to me? Okay. Will you purchase any goods, services, or assets from any officer, director, trustee, compensated or highest compensated, if you are? How are you going to do it? Look. Yes, describe any such purchases that you made or intend to make from whom you make, and will such purposes and will make such purchases, how the terms are or will be negotiated at arm's length.
Right, that's right.
And explain how you will determine that you pay no more than fair market value. Remember those words? Attach copies of any written contracts or any agreements related to such purposes. Now, did you just see that about buying stuff and using your board members, or even using employees, companies, or anyone associated, what the issues are? Arm's length, fair market value. Arm's length, fair market value. Do you get that? Okay. Now, understand that what this has now become is not simply about how to form a 501c3. It's how to successfully operate a 501c3 and what you better put in place when you are operating, and not simply just go ahead and do things because now Now you can get some fun money, and now you can have fun. The person's right here who said that. Yeah, you can have fun, or you can have fun in jail. Okay? Because I'm telling you, it's serious.
Yes, it is.
It's much more serious than you might ever dream. Do you, will you lease any contract from officer employee? Is it going to be arm's length? Give me copies of it. That's all this is about. Okay, that's all this next part is about. Notice number 9A. Do you, will you have leases, contracts with any organizations or with any of these officers? Any organizations of the officers, notice, or trustee owns more than 35% of the interest. Even if they have owned more than 35% of the interest, they want to know. It's not, it becomes an issue. Number 5, compensation and financial arrangements continue. Written oral agreements, okay, it's really more of the same. It's the issue of arm's length and fair market with officers and employees. That's really what this part is all about. Oh, now check. Now it just gets more interesting. You go to part 6. Members and other individuals and organizations that receive benefit. The people you serve, right? Answer yes or no to questions related to goods, services, and funds you plan to provide to individuals and organizations. And carry out this, do you plan to provide services to people? Yes or no? That's simple. And carry out the services, do you plan to provide services to organizations? Okay, are you providing services to people or organizations? It might be both. Okay, that's a very simple. And then do you limit it? Now notice number 3. See number 3? Do any individuals who receive goods, services, or funds through your program have a family or business relationship with officers, directors, trustee, or with any highest paid compensated employee or independent contractor? Now, it's not unusual that you might answer that yes, because the world is small and people of a feather flock together. However, if yes, then you need to explain the relationship, and you've got to keep in mind this whole issue of fair market value and arm's length. You can answer yes, and sometimes it's appropriate. We were running a housing organization, and some of the board members needed houses. Should they not be allowed to get houses? They're low income. We want to have low income people on our board. Should we exclude them from our services? But the question is, how do we make sure we're not giving them preferential treatment? How do we make sure that it's arm's length? How do we make sure that we're not, that they simply aren't starting this for the purpose of doing this? Getting their own home. Let me give you a situation. I was working with this organization. I'm going to give you some now more to detail. And you can see how easily this person is they're going to do their best to send her to jail. She may go. She didn't do anything unintentional. She was not trying to do wrong. She was simply trying to do right, but she did not want to understand that there are restrictions. She started as an organization. They met in her office. She rented the space to them in her own office. Her son was on the board. Her son was on the board. Her son also lived in one of the houses they rented to him. He was also the general contractor. She signed his checks. Her son paid all the contractors in cash. They bought one of their family houses. So the organization bought one. See any conflict there? And if that were all, it would be a simple case.
Oh my God, more?
Yes. Yes. That was the part I saw. I said, oh,
Oh, you
honey,
said, oh, please.
we got to stop right here. Let me just first
let me oversee your son.
Yeah,
Oh, no. I said, don't sign his checks.
right. Please let somebody
He's
else
got to
sign.
get off the board. We got to do some things immediately. The damage was too late. She had too many enemies. When they start bringing that stuff up,
Yeah.
and there were some other things that happened. So, anyway, let's go. All right, so section 6 is about services to people and the benefits, and you understand the issues, right? I don't have to go into that, but it's simple. All right, so now, section 7 is really about the history. How did you come into place, and what was the year? That will have an impact when you get to your budget, by the way. They want to know, because if you've been in existence a long time and you're just applying, then the issue is, where is your budget, and can give me budget information. Okay, that's why that will have an impact. Specific activities. Now they want to know what you're going to be doing, your specific activities. You're going to be doing political campaigns, yes or no? You're going to influence elections, yes or no? You're going to be gambling, yes or no? Bingo, yes or no? Now, the reason all of these issues have certain restrictions in the code. It's not that you can't do them, but they are restricted. They are flag areas. Okay, they are flag areas. It's not that you can't. First, you cannot have direct influence on an election by voting a particular person. Yes, and there's a certain amount you can spend. Okay, if you're going to do bingo, there's a certain amount of revenue that you can make for unrelated business activities. I think it's 35%. I think someone was talking about that. You know, if it's not pertaining to, and this is the key, if it's not a part of your actual program. For example, you know the organization that make the chocolate chips and Ben & Jerry's ice cream is a not-for-profit. It's called the Grayston Foundation. Yeah. Now, if you read their website, it says we have business. We hire people to have we have business to hire people, not hire people for our business. What are they saying? The business is hiring people. So in there and helping people get a job. So in that vein, all of their revenue that is not restricted. However, if they've simply got an unrelated business, not related to helping people, just making money, then some of it's restricted. You see the difference, okay? That's why it's how you structure things could be the very difference. Goodwill makes a profit. They hire some of the people that they're trying to put to work in their stores. All of that revenue is not taxable. It's not taxable because they're not in business to make money. They're in business to train people how to have a good job. See what I'm saying?
So that's like technically they're a training
Yes.
company?
Sure. You can have a training company and they're doing things and making money and all of the money is not tax exempt. But if you're not doing that and you simply are making money, then when you go over 35%, it's taxable. And if it's significantly more than that, you run a risk of not being tax exempt at all. Okay. So I want to go on. You got the idea. I just want to get you. All right, so this now issues how are you going to engage in your fundraising? This is pretty simple. It's not really not a whole lot of issue, but in Pennsylvania, by the way, to raise money, you have to be registered. Did you know that? You have to be registered to raise money in Pennsylvania. Yes. Yes. So that's one of the things about, and it doesn't really come into play here. I just want to make you aware of that. They're asking basically, how are you going to raise money? Are you going to keep separate accounts? Are you keeping track of who are your contributors? And are you advising them how they can use their money? That's basically, you need to be able to answer the appropriate answer here. It's not tricky, but you need to make sure that you're keeping good records and you're advising people on how to do that. Okay? That's really the issue here.
When does it say the schools are exempt from that charitable?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm sure anybody who raises money in the state of Pennsylvania have to be registered because they want to make sure that if there's any crazy people out there, that they can go back and they can pull your right to raise money in the state.
Registered through.
What is it called?
Bureau of Charitable Organizations.
But I just read that
I
recently.
believe it's- Now, you may not know that you have to be registered, but you do. Okay, you do in the state of Pennsylvania.
So
Okay,
if you want, if you have a fundraiser once
Is
a
it for a
year,
certain amount of money?
excuse me?
so if you have a fundraiser once a year,
Yes, if it's a certain amount of money, I can't remember how much money you have to, if you're getting, that you have to register. How much is it?
25,000, yeah, that's what I thought.
I think it's less than that.
No, I said 20, I just read it about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, all right, there you go.
we don't
I have
have
it in my,
that.
get the file.
Okay, so this next thing is about, who's gonna benefit from economic development? Let's say, if you write in your activities, that this is for all the community, do you know that that's a problem?
Say that again?
If you said your activities are going to benefit anyone in all the community can receive your services or economic benefit, do you know that that's a problem? That is a problem because your activities have to be charitable, and who receives the benefit is the issue. If it's those individuals that are not considered as a part of receiving charity, then you could lose your tax exempt status.
That's a
Okay.
service, or if it's a service as well?
Yes. If you're providing services to those individuals. Okay? Unless it's for animals or something like that, or trees, or, it's all the trees or all the animals. Okay? Okay. Here is really how you're going to develop your activities, who's going to manage your activities, and what relationship do they have to everybody else. That's the issue here. Read it. Do or will persons other than employees or volunteers develop your facilities? If yes, describe each facility, the role of the developer, and any business or family relationship between the developer, your officers or directors. You see, you're back there again. See what I'm saying? If you're going to develop it, tell me the relation. And that's the same question. And they're also going to ask, if there is business or family relationship, then the next question is it arm's length and fair market value? Do you see that under C? If they are family, is it arm's length and fair market value? Those are two issues. Arm's length, fair market value. I didn't highlight it. This next one is age. You probably aren't that. You're not a joint partnership. Child care. You're applying for child care. Yes or no? Okay. This issue, again, is about who are you providing other persons gainfully employed? That's really the key. Because if it's simply for anybody and everyone, you're going to get a no. 12 minutes, thanks. Notice, of the children for whom you provide child care are 80% or more of them cared for by you to enable their parents or caretakers to be gainfully employed. You see what the issue is? You've got to be helping people. It's not simply, I'm providing child care. Most of these people just need somebody to watch their kids while they go out and gamble. They got good jobs, whatever. They need to have a night out. That's all we do. I guarantee you, if it doesn't have something to do with lifting up and helping people become employed, and helping people through the issues of life, and helping them lift their status, if it's not about that, you will not be a tax-exempt organization. If that's not the primary group, 85%. You see the quality. It's not that you can't help anybody, but if most of the people are not, you're helping the parents. You will not. You can do it, It's just, you're not tax exempt. You get it? All right, okay, I think we're making some progress. Let's see if we can get down here. This is if you're gonna make loans, foreign organizations, how you gonna do it. If you're gonna make grants, how you gonna do it. You're gonna basically make sure that what you're doing is according to arm's length, is according to good practices. That's basically, and you gotta describe how you're gonna make your loans. And give us the written documents on how you're gonna do it. If you're gonna give loans and grants to people. And do they have any relationship between you and your organization? You just lending your mama and your daddy and your grandma? Okay, if they are, you gotta give us some more information. Okay, that's what they're asking here. It's not difficult, but you're gonna have to explain how. Do you know how you're going to do it? Do you have written contract with each? If yes, attach the documents. If you're going to do grants, then tell us where are the documents, how are you going to do it, what's the relationship, what's your selection process. You just don't go, just whatever our board says, we're just going to give them, no, that won't work. It got to be an open process. You can make sure it's not just going to go to certain people. That's the issue. Look at number G. Describe your processes oversight of distribution that ensures that your resources are used to further your tax-exempt purpose, including whether they require periodic and final reports on the use of resources. You get it? Okay. Now it's the same thing under this. You're going to give stuff to foreign organizations. Same, no different. If you have a closed corporation, is yes, okay, you're going to have to talk about that. Is it a hospital? These are some things that you are probably not, with the exception of some of these down here. Now, let me tell you, these next questions, they're going to want more information, and you're going to have to get that information on separate schedules. Will you operate a school? If yes, complete Schedule B.